I think there we've heard it: consistency, trust, transparency, disclosure. I think we're going to hear a lot more of this language throughout the day. So I think it's set a nice theme for the rest of the day, and we do appreciate there's a lot of work to be done. It's not all going to change in the next few hours, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Let's have a look now at where this all impacts in terms of the role of the Treasury and how this can actually drive the business. So please welcome, from the Association of Corporate Treasurers in the UK, joining us here today, the Director of Education, James Lockyer. James, thank you so much for taking the time. 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Many thanks to ICAP, to Mr. Suttar and Mr. Rahman for inviting me here. I'm very honoured and grateful to be allowed to talk to you. I've been told strictly to keep it short and sweet, so we'll see how we get on. What I'd like to do is very briefly give you a little bit of orientation about my association, the Association of Corporate Treasurers, and then look a little bit at what is corporate treasury, and then I think the meat of it is really in looking at sort of three critical questions in finance. There's quite a lot in this presentation which either overtly or implicitly picks up things we've heard so far today, and also you'll hear after lunch. So please stick with it, and I hope you find it useful. Brilliant. Okay, the ACT is primarily a professional education body. We look at finance as far as possible from an international perspective, although of course we're based in London, and we've got a really varied membership. Half of our membership is from corporates and half from elsewhere, either banks, insurance, professional services, a whole range of sectors, and with a corresponding huge range of roles. CEOs, CFOs, treasurers in the corporates, and then in the financial institution, relationship managers, cash managers, credit, structured finance, the whole range of things you can do. The ACT in 2012, a summary slide here. The really important thing, I think, on this slide is that this year we're in the process of applying for a royal charter. Two things about this which are important for us. First of all, it's the Queen's personal sign-off, if you like, on us as a quality organisation. I think the other thing which is of importance for the finance community internationally is that it is recognition that corporate treasury is a profession in its own right and is a distinguishable skill set. In addition to the things on this slide, we do a lot of stuff outside the UK. In particular, we've got a large, thriving network based in broadly around UAE, but covering the whole of the GCC and the Middle East region. And we also hold events, training, and other things physically in a dozen or so countries, as well as the UK. So, what's corporate treasury? I think the key point off this slide is that all business strategies meet the financial markets. And so all businesses have a treasury function. It may be allocated to a person or a department, or it may be spread through the organisation. But everything from Microsoft to the corner shop does do treasury. And the second thing is that because of its link to the business strategy, corporate treasury is as unique in any organisation as that business strategy. So it's definitely not something where one size fits all. And the three key questions which are on this slide, we're going to have a look in a little bit more detail. what to invest in, where do you get the money to do so, and how do we control risk? And I think the main thing about those is they're all forward-looking questions. CFO, as I'm sure you're all aware, has got a wide range of responsibilities. Typically, as accountants or coming out of the accountancy profession, revolving around financial position, where the business is today, and with an accruals-based perspective on value. Treasury perspective is really revolves around cash, and it revolves around value as expressed by today's value of an expected future set of cash flows discounted at an appropriately risk-weighted cost of funds. So Treasury goes beyond simply just cash management. It includes a risk dimension, and it includes a communication and a credit dimension, which we'll touch on later. And as I mentioned, the role of the Treasurer could be very broad or very narrow, depending entirely on how the company is set up and how the finance function within that company is set up. But whatever the role of Treasury, the role of the interface with the financial markets and the business has since 2007 really become very important indeed, and that importance continues. Let's see if I can make this work. So, hurrah. I like to think of the Treasurer as one of the CFO's main buddies, if you like. The CFO has got a hell of a lot on his or her plate. And to be honest, certainly at the moment, access to and interaction with the financial markets can take up an increasing amount of the CFO's time and be an increasing drain and drag on the other things the CFO needs to do. The core competencies of accounting and cash complement each other, leading to a much deeper understanding of the business and hence how to finance success. And the Treasury competencies are a fantastic platform to build a finance career on. So Treasury is a great place to cycle people through to broaden and deepen their careers and build on their CA or other qualification and experience. I think a couple I'd pick out of this. Cash and the business strategy pretty much go together. You can't understand the cash unless you understand the business strategy, and you can't influence the business strategy unless you understand how the cash is going to work. None of us like uncertainty, but the Treasury community has to somehow get over that and become comfortable with uncertainty and get used to bringing uncertainty into things. Technically competent almost goes without saying, but to pick up a point from earlier, Treasury in particular is as much about people as anything. At the end of the day, it's people who do business with people. And the Treasurer is in a funny sort of position because they may be responsible for a team, you may be responsible for a tiny team in relation to the business. After that, everything you do, whether it's inward-facing or outward-facing, is by negotiation and persuasion, persuading people what's in it for them to take a certain course of action. And it's a great place to start understanding the motivation of others when you're dealing with them. Okay, if we look at our three questions, investing really is what's the business strategy? And you know, as I've mentioned, this strategy link is absolutely vital for treasurers. And just after the last question of the last session, you know, what goes to make a good project? How can you make your project as good as you possibly can for when you need to fund it? The classic approach is DCF, and you know, all the textbooks will tell you that DCF is the best way to evaluate projects. But for you as CFOs and as accountants, you need to layer in the other measures which are going to be involved in assessing how good or otherwise a project is. Corporate treasury is about long-term value creation, and therefore Does